So we can actually go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and first welcome you to the first meeting of the SuAsCo Climate Resiliency Coalition of the year. And for those of you who don't know me, whether you are a past participant or not, I'm actually the new Ecological Restoration Coordinator here at ORS. So I'll be getting up, I just started in January, so I'll be getting up to speed as we go forward. I'm going to facilitate, but Allison's going to do a bit of the talking since she knows more about all of this than I do. So what we want to do first is we'll go ahead. So there's the agenda. We're going to do some introductions and updates. We'll go over the coalition goals and the progress. So new projects, and then we have some input that we need from you about these new projects and summary and the next steps. And then right now, if you wouldn't mind stating your name, your organization, your title, whether you're a new or an existing participant, and then, a brief highlight of a project that you happen to be working on. And I'm going to stop sharing for now so that we can focus on each other. Give me just a second. Allison will go first.
Okay, great. Thank you, Heather. It's so wonderful to see everybody, except I can see people's names. If you can turn your camera on, all the better, just because it's more congenial that way. But anyway, I'm Allison Field-Juma. I'm Executive Director of ORS, and we started this coalition last year with the town of Stowe, with Jesse Stedman, who has since retired and is doing other cool things. So we are carrying it forward. We have 3 years of basic funding to make sure that we can keep it going. And we're super excited about that and the amount of work we've actually achieved in the first year. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of those aspects, but I will now pass it over to Jennifer Miller.
Hi, sorry. There might be some background because we have two of us in the same office, some feedback, but I'm Westboro's new conservation director. I've been here for a little over a month at this point. So definitely still getting my feet wet and getting up to speed with everything. And I'm excited to be a part of this group and learn more about the projects that we can collaborate on together.
Great. I see Eric next.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Eric Simmons. I'm the Director of Sustainability here in Concord. Fairly new to that role, about 3 months now. So getting my feet under me with everything that's happening here in Concord. I live in Wayland, and I'm alternate, or I guess you could say co-representative for the Rivers Stewardship Council on behalf of Wayland, along with Tom, who I see on the call here as well. So I haven't been involved with this group before, but I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot happening here in Concord. I think one thing that's probably of interest related to climate and resilience is that Concord is just starting a process for an integrated water resources management plan through the Public Works Department. So that's something I'll be involved with at some level and looking forward to. And if anybody's interested, I can probably tell you about a lot of other stuff offline.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek. I work at DuPont. I'm a chemist, but I'm decently active in our sustainability group, and we were able to get funding for a project with ORS on a rain garden somewhere local.
And we'll talk more about that coming up. Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Siaka. I'm from Wayland. I'm the RSC rep from Wayland. And I'm also a member of the Wayland Energy and Climate Committee. And in both cases, I've been members of those groups since their inception. Particular project that's consuming me the most right at the moment is trying to get people to recognize the validity of what Henry David Thoreau did in the 1850s in recognizing that the flooding issue on the Sudbury River was due at least as much and maybe a lot more to the river obstructions than to the Billerica Dam. And in particular, I'm trying to get people to recognize that the worst obstruction for Wayland was actually built after Thoreau's time, which is the railroad causeway that was built in 1880. And since that's now being repurposed as a rail trail, I am trying to get some mitigation done as a part of that project to the flooding effect. The issue is longstanding. We've had floods in Wayland roughly every 10 years for the last century. But with climate change, all the reports that I've seen say that the worst vulnerability of the Northeast US to climate change is in the form of flooding. And as you all know, we have more frequent and larger precipitation events. So this issue is part of the climate change local adaptation requirements, I think.
Thanks, Tom. Lori, next door in Sudbury.
Hey everyone, Lori Capone, I'm the Conservation Coordinator in Sudbury. Not new to ORS, but new to this group. So I think the most significant project we're working with ORS and the Hop Brook Association will be a watershed-based plan that will be being developed over the next year to improve water quality in Hop Brook, as well as implementing stormwater management features within the watershed to improve water quality. We currently have 2 rail trails under construction. So that will hopefully help with climate change, getting people out of their cars and onto their bikes and their feet. And I guess the most exciting thing in Sudbury right now is that we are working on hiring our first sustainability coordinator, which is underway. We should have someone in place soon. So they may be part of this group, but I was interested in what you guys are doing, so I thought I would join you today.
And Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Sudbury declare a climate emergency?
We did. So at the last town meeting, we did declare the emergency, and part of that was hiring the sustainability coordinator. So without the person in place, we haven't been able to implement anything yet, but there's lots of discussions going on of how we can improve climate change and resiliency in town.
Great, thank you. Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Helnick. I'm the conservation agent for the town of Hudson. And I guess the project that I'll mention is I'm managing a regional MVP natural climate solutions project that ORS is involved in. And the idea is that we've got a core team of interested parties from around Hudson, also with a focus from and Framingham and Ashland with a focus on environmental justice. We're trying to identify sites that are impacted by climate change and can be improved by nature-based solutions. So that's in full swing right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Samantha.
Hello, I'm Samantha. I'm Ashland's sustainability manager. I'm new to this group. One thing that we're working on right now is a tree protection bylaw that hopefully will be passed in our May town meeting.
Great. Leah.
Hi, Leah Gergera from the Town of Westboro as a conservation assistant. I'm here really to absorb and learn and figure out and identify future projects that we can get off the ground here.
Great. Sasha? Yes. Oh, yes.
Hi, can you see me, hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm going to be off camera because I'm walking while I'm listening to this meeting. But I'm Sasha Parodi. I work for the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which is Greater Boston's regional planning agencies, and I manage the sub-regional program. So that's kind of the program that we have to stay connected with communities on the ground. And I'm currently supporting my colleague Georgia and I are sharing co-coordination of the Magic subregion, of which several of the towns here are a part of. And I'm generally interested in this group from a broader kind of programmatic stance to see what else can be done in other subregions. So we'll mostly be here to listen. Yeah, good to see you.
Great, thank you. We have a good contingent from MAPC. I should mention, oh, maybe I'll introduce Van. Van, introduce yourself because a lot of this started with you.
Maybe not with me, but I might have something to do with it. Hi, everyone. Good to see some similar faces and new faces here as well. My name is Van. I am Senior Environmental Planner here also at MAPC, and I run the Accelerating Climate Resilience Grant Program that we were super happy and pleased to provide some support to get this coalition or groups, resilience group going. So I am also here just to listen and also if I can, be of any help thinking about resources, brainstorming, I am also here to support. Thanks, Allison.
I wanted to just ask you, there was a resilience community of practice that was part of the program. Are there still opportunities for people to participate in that? Should we be encouraging folks to participate?
The resilience community of practice for all of you, it's sort of a peer-to-peer place for ACR grantees, but we're expanding this, and it's currently because of staff capacity and everything and just logistically, so we have kicked it off this year with the current grantees, but there will be opportunities once or twice a year to bring in folks, from previous grant programs as well. And of course, when we have site visits, that's definitely opening up. I would love to open up to all the municipal partners here too. So I will relay that message through you, Allison, when those site visits come up. And the site visits are of ACR grants project. Sometimes there is actually a specific site. We've been to like community garden in Natick. We went out to see like a stormwater outfall in Framingham. A few places that I'm blanking out. A floating wetland. I don't know if you kayak out there, but so yeah, just to check out what the grantees are doing and things like that. But of course, I think it would be lovely to have all of you be part of the site visits and get to know other folks working in the field as well.
Great, thank you. And Georgia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgia Barlow. I'm on the government affairs team at MAPC. And like Sasha mentioned, I'm also one of the co-coordinators of the Magic region. So just here to listen and hear what you all are working on today.
Great. And thank you. Yes, and Magic was one of the original groups that supported the formation of this coalition. So it's really great to see you. I think I'll, Heather, shall I continue with the updates?
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
So one thing I just want to let people know about, because it really can have a big impact, is that there is a group called the Massachusetts MVP Coalition, which consists of regional planning commissions from across the state, the Mass Municipal Association, and various watershed organizations and others, economic development organizations. We are aware that actually the MVP program has been very successful, but that action grants are funding projects that are really significant and expensive. And that the current funding has been not been adequate to fund all of the worthy projects for which it's been people applied for. So this group is lobbying the legislature to increase the amount in the environmental bond, which in 2018 it's a 5-year bond bill, and it included 75 million for the MVP program in 2018. But what we're lobbying for now is for the 2023 environmental bond bill to include 500 million. So that would be 100 million per year for MVP capital projects, the action grants that you apply for. It won't fund everything, but it will make a big, big difference. And so I've sometimes called on folks in our watershed. We've had some meetings with MVP, and there will be some other meetings to just give examples of work that they've done in their communities to show how impactful this MVP money is. And so I just wanted to mention that we're doing that. You might hear from me if I'm would like someone to give an example of their work. And also welcome any of you to join in or join into meetings or just stay in touch. And there is a website for that, which I think is something like Mass MVP Coalition or something like that. But you can Google Massachusetts MVP Coalition to learn more. Anyway, it's a really great group, and we hope that we will succeed. We will know fairly soon. And so then the other thing is, back to the slides. Yeah, next slide is, there's a conference coming up. So I may have mentioned in the past that we have, this coalition is part of several in the state. And there's been a group of us that have been encouraging there being collaboration on the watershed scale, because as we know, climate impacts don't observe municipal boundaries. And there's going to be a conference at which we're going to have all kinds of really interesting presentations. And there's a toolbox that has been developed that we've been working on over the past year. And so just to let you know, in case you're interested, that it'll be on May 3rd at Clark University in Worcester. And so I will send out more information about that as it becomes available. So those are the two sort of upcoming events. And I did also, I think now we'll just move on to quickly reviewing, especially for new people, the coalition's goals. And Heather will do that. And I wanted to mention sort of the framework is that we ask communities to participate, to commit to participate in the coalition. And we can send out more information about that to those who aren't familiar with it. Several communities have done that, and that just makes the coalition stronger. And we really want to hear from you. We really want to understand, how do we make this useful? We've heard things of, sometimes it could be a webinar on some topic that's of mutual interest, or support for developing proposals, those sorts of things, anything. So our ears are open. If there's anything that you think it would be useful that a sort of trans-boundary organization is well suited to, just shoot us an email. So take it away, Heather.
Putting that website, I believe that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I apologize. I was going to put it on the slide and I completely forgot. So for the coalition goals, just want to go over each one. Let's make sure that these are the goals that we have in mind. And if we want to add, subtract, or change them in any way. So empower communities in the SuAsCo watershed to protect and restore the region's ecological processes. Provide information to assist in the education of municipalities as they educate residents and businesses on current climate vulnerabilities and resiliency opportunities. Share resources and information among communities to collaborate on climate resiliency initiatives and opportunities. advance intermunicipal projects, initiatives, and best practices that improve the resiliency of the SuAsCo region's water resources. And lastly, invest in broad coalition building to diversify participation and eliminate the intersection of public health, wellness, and climate resiliency in the SuAsCo watershed. So these, do these sound like, I know they worked on this last year, and do we all agree that these are good goals to have? Do we want to keep these goals, add to them, modify them? Or we don't want to adopt these as the goals for the coalition? Input welcome.
Well, they sound good to me. I think we need to test them by taking action going forward with these in mind.
Yeah, and I think
they sound good to me also. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Pam.
No, I was just agreeing with Tom. I think they sound good, and we need to we'll see if they work as we go forward.
I think that's right. There's no point in having something that doesn't actually serve a useful purpose. So we always keep that keenly in mind. I did want to mention Eric, actually following up on what Eric mentioned, was doing some water resources planning. This was actually, we developed a project with the town of Concord and to submit to MVP last year with his predecessor. And it was really based on if you remember, the Charles River Compact had developed a flooding model for a section of their watershed, mainly along the main stems of the rivers, of the Charles River. And part of the idea was so that when modeling flooding, and particularly when changing any infrastructure that might affect flooding, that all the communities were using the same system of modeling, of data. And so instead of having a whole array of different models where one community says, oh, well, we removed this culvert and now this is happening, but the one downstream from them as well, we use a different one. And so that input doesn't square with our inputs. It would all be consistent, and that one can continue to maintain a watershed scale flood model. And as changes happen in precipitation, as they change in infrastructure, it would reflect those changes. So we basically submitted that idea to MVP, but with a twist, which was to add drought modeling, because we were sort of keenly aware that in our watershed, drought is also a big issue. And most of our communities depend on their own groundwater resources or the river. And so, and certainly the ecological resources are severely impacted by drought, as is recreation and other important aspects of our communities. Well, it didn't get funded, but we got good feedback. And part of the issue was that it was actually really complicated to model drought. And we needed to think it through more and also spend more time with the communities in the watershed, because they would have needed to provide some match. And that takes, as we know, takes time to figure out. So I just want to say that I still think it was a great idea, whether one starts with one community and works out, or you start with a lot of communities and work in. I just like to keep that idea on the table, because we're all looking at water supply, especially as some communities are losing their water supplies because of PFAS or temporarily losing them. There's also another thing we've been doing representing the coalition is the MWRA is in the process of evaluating communities' requests to join their system. but they're only doing it based on those communities who have already approached them. And so communities who have not already approached the MWRA may be left out of their Metro West study and therefore not have access to the MWRA water in the future, which would be a shame to say the least if they actually need it. So this is something else that we would be very interested in your input if your community is not connected in any way to the MWRA system, but you think you may want to be in the future, or you might want to be next to a community that is, so you can have an emergency connection through them, because the system is just a bunch of pipes. So if you're pretty far away from their existing pipes, you want the communities between you and those pipes to get connected. So there's a lot in that, and that's something that we've been working with sort of a working group to try to have some say on that. And some of our communities, some of you may be involved in that at the MWRA table as well. So that's another thing where I think it's a very watershed-based issue. I wanted to now turn to a couple of projects. And the first one is one that we are, yes, thank you. We have been working with Derek, and we're able to receive a grant from DuPont to do something on the ground, get stuff moving, and partly to, yes, build some green infrastructure, but that also would involve some volunteers, would involve an educational component, like an educational panel that could be there permanently. And so we have some funds to build something, or because we know that some green infrastructure, like some rain gardens and things, have been installed some years ago and haven't been maintained. They need rehabbing. That's a project in itself. And yet they're well placed and we're doing their job, but they need some TLC. So we're interested in hearing from you. Are there any sites in your community that have flooding issues that you would like to see some local, as they say, BMPs that would capture stormwater, recharge it, clean it, and also hopefully provide some space for some great native plantings that are pollinator habitat, especially in places where there isn't a lot of green. If you have any communities where they may be heat islands, they may just not have a lot of tree cover or green space, they could really benefit from a little, it's like a pocket garden in the end, and can bring joy and beauty as well as filtering stormwater and reducing flooding. So it's not a lot of money. It would be one installation, but we would love to hear from you if you have any possible sites. And I don't know if anybody here right now said, yeah, we might. And you don't have to be specific, but do let us know, because it's kind of a nice opportunity to get something on the ground.
So Allison, I had a thought as you were talking. Wayland has, and I'm wearing my energy committee hat, we installed a whole lot of solar canopies over town and school parking lots. And in the middle of those arrays where the support posts are rain gardens, except the ones that I've noticed haven't done really well because they're shaded. And possibly a project that figured out how to deal with shaded areas under solar arrays as viable rain gardens would make a worthwhile project.
That is really, I haven't heard of that one before, but that is really interesting.
Well, I
Rain
heard
garden,
it before, I just invented it. So.
yeah, plants can grow in the shade. Yes, folks. And so that would be particularly then matching the species with the setting. Does anybody have any particularly urban areas that
Well, Allison, remember way back you and we were working on a grant to try to put a rain garden back behind the library and the police station where it drains directly into the Assabet River with like literally no buffer. And we had been looking for a grant to put a rain garden there and in some other places, and then we didn't get the grant. I forget which grant it was. It was years ago. But I've always thought it would be nice to have something in that location, and it is, kind of urban. I mean, it's an urban area, so that's just one thought.
Great, that's a really good thought. And being near the library, if it has some educational signage, that might be.
Yeah, and not only that, but it goes right out onto that little tiny veterans park along the river, and there's a walkway and some memorial statues around there. So people will go down there and see the educational signage. So that might be an interesting spot. And then hopefully we'll uncover some more spots in this MVP project as we look at some different sites in Hudson. But that's just one I'm aware of.
Great. Yeah. Anybody else on that topic? And I know there's some folks who couldn't attend today who are interested in this also, so we'll talk with them. So the other one I wanted to mention is something that ORS has been spending quite a lot of time on recently, which is, again, making things happen on the ground, which is that we are very much involved in restoring habitat continuity and aquatic habitat, which involves particularly removing dams and building fishways. And it can also be culvert replacement and things like that, where there are problems due to culverts and stream crossings. But we have formed a technical advisory committee that is really focused on the science of it, so that we understand fully all the data that are available in the watershed. We know there are, and I've forgotten the number, about 190 dams in our watershed, and those are just the official ones. There may be others also hiding in the woods, but that's a lot of dams, and most of them are not serving any useful purpose anymore. We approach dam removal on a very case-by-case basis, that each dam is its own story, loved and reviled for different reasons, and where those dams are still serving a purpose, that should be very seriously weighed against the benefits of removing them. That said, the Talbot Mill Dam, which happens to be photographed in this picture that you're seeing in Billerica, we expect it will be removed. We are hoping it will be removed next year. We're the project manager for that project, which is now in the permitting phase. But when that dam is removed, fish will be able to pass from the Gulf of Maine into the Sudbury and Concord, Sudbury and Assabet rivers, which is pretty exciting. They haven't done that in, a very long time. Just ask Thora. So we are interested in, so there's the science part of it, what do the scientists think? But there's the community part of it, which is equally important. Where do your municipal vulnerability plans say there's a problem with a dam? I know there's one where the dam is not even in that community. I think it's Wayland. There's like a dam upstream that, or it might be in your community, and it would be good to, people are saying, well, it needs to be fixed or taken out or something. We would like to know about those dams. And the other thing is, wherever there's a willing dam owner, that could be a low-hanging fruit for removal, because if they're willing, That's half of it right there. And if they've got a dam that's been inspected and needs repair, they may repair or removal. They may look at the numbers and the liability in the future and say, I think it's better to have it out. And generally, removing dams improves climate resiliency. So you get larger floodplains. None of these dams are controlling water, except for like a few flood control dams up in that are built by the NRCS. They don't have outlets that are manipulated in order to control water levels. I would say also the dams in the Sudbury Reservoir system are managed to have releases. But generally, these dams don't help flooding one bit, except to raise floodplains. So that you get ecological restoration, you get improved water quality, you get less flooding, larger floodplains available, and more drought resiliency for the species that live in those water bodies. So we're pretty excited about this as a climate resiliency activity, but we need a lot of help in identifying where these dams are. And we would love if you could let us know if there are any dams in your MVP plans in particular, but also just that you know about that are either on the main stem, Sudbury or Concord rivers or Assabet River, or up one of the tributaries, because the fish actually need to get into the tributaries to breed. So most of them don't breed in the main stem rivers. So, for example, there are dams that are important because they're holding back a major recreational resource, a lake. But let's look at that and see if there's a way that fish passage could be added, because that might be a fantastic place for alewife or blueback herring or shad to breed, or American eel. And so that's what that is. And we kind of like to hear from folks what you got in your communities. And Heather put a note in the chat, which is probably, yes, it includes her email. That was about the DuPont funding, but you can also send her ideas on dams. And I see, Van, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to have a quick ad. Another good place to look at the database for dams is in each of the municipal hazard mitigation plans. You all should have had done it within that recently, like in the last 5 years, whether with MAPC or not. So take a look, because as part of FEMA, requirement, they should be mapped or listed as well, and that might give you a more updated level of like who's on what in those plans.
Thank you. Yes, that's the MVP plans don't always include the same things as the hazard mitigation plans. And so if you all who are on this call could check out your hazard mitigation plan and your MVP plan and send us any dams that are listed there, that would be incredibly helpful as we just start this process of engaging with the communities to see what could happen there. And they don't have to be directly related to fish coming up the Concord River. They could be way higher up in the watershed where, for example, there's a pond that nobody really cares about anymore and a broken dam, and it's blocking the migration and movement of wild eastern brook trout, for example, or any of our cold water streams that have dams. The dams are not helping. And so those would be great candidates. So it can be for resident fish too. It can be for where there's a hazard because it's a dam that if it breaks, it's going to take out a road or houses or whatever. Lots of reasons. So yeah, that's that. And we're very excited about it. We have lots of information about the process. There's also, we'll put in the chat, but a really great story map that we've developed, a group of us partners. It's on the Merrimack River Watershed Council's website. That's a story map that goes into starts with the retreat of the glaciers in terms of understanding what our watershed is, why our rivers are where they are, who lived here back then, well, not back then, subsequently, and when, and all the way up through our industrial history. It's a really great, educational resource. So that might be fun for you to look at. So that, any other ideas on dams or fish passage in your communities? All right.
So not in my community, but the dam that comes to mind for me is the Hager Dam, which is in really, really bad shape. The ownership is unknown. DCR is managing it, but if that one were to go, it is upstream of all of our dams along Hot Brook, which could have devastating impacts.
What town is it in? Is it in Marlborough?
Marlborough.
That's good to know about. Okay, let's talk about that one. Or do you think would folks in Marlborough, Priscilla or somebody know more about that one?
Priscilla would. Yeah. It's like right up gradient of Route 20. So it would, take out Route 20 and then
it sounds worse and worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and then make its way to Gristmill first and probably take out the, Wayside Inn area and make its way down. So it's really, really in tough shape. It's in, if we had an ownership, I think DCR would be on them to remove it or repair it. Because it really is, it's coming around all sides of the existing dam. And it is holding back a large pond, and the people who live on it love the pond. And so they keep putting boards back in it and trying to put more pressure behind the dam. So I know it's been a significant challenge for Priscilla to keep on top of. And if there was anything that could happen with that, that would be beneficial.
Wow, that's a great one. Thank you. And there's a question about culverts. So culverts, I mean, there's a culvert replacement program that the state has. The main issue, well, from a fish's perspective, the main issue with a culvert is when they're either perched so that there's like a step. If you're swimming upstream, the culvert, the bottom of the culvert is above your head and above the water level. That's a problem. And then also basically that we have, this, you're probably familiar with this, but the stream crossing standards for Massachusetts are very good. And everything that's new should be replaced to those standards. And what it provides for is trying to have open bottom culverts. So you basically have an upside down U as opposed to a whole circle, or you actually, if you can, include some bank so that you've got a bit of dry land on either side and then the stream going down the middle. That allows for different water levels. It allows for riparian life that's not aquatic to creep along the sides. And that's hugely important. And of course, when you've got that kind of space, you're not going to be taking out bridges and roads when there's a big flood. They're much, much more resilient. So we have done surveys in some areas. I don't think anybody's from, we did it more in the Neshoba Brook area of culvert surveys. And these are things that they're pretty super for getting volunteers involved with. We did ours all with volunteers. It's not that it's no work, but you just give them, you have a checklist and you have the criteria, and they go out with some measuring sticks and their cell phones, and you can get pretty good culvert assessments. Like they can just walk up a stream, and for each impediment, they can record it and rate it. And that's incredibly helpful. So if you haven't had that done, that's something to consider. And we could talk with you about that. We love getting locals involved with, we have folks right now going out and just taking measures of how saline the streams are in their neighborhood. They come, they get our equipment, they take the measurements, and it's feeding into a really great database on the increasing salinity in our streams. So we could do the same with culverts. Does that help answer your question, Jennifer?
Sorry, I guess my question was more, are there certain criteria that you're looking to achieve in co-sponsoring or being a part of a submittal for MVP? I'm assuming that's what you mean by dams and MVP communities.
Well, part of it is we're just information gathering. So we want to find out like where are these dams and who owns them, and then we could start conversations. If it's actually gets to the point, if you've got enough willing parties, the owner's interested, you know, some support in the community, especially municipal, like CONSCOM and others are thinking, this could be good. Then we would work with you to get some funding to like do a reconnaissance survey. That would be the first step. Working with Division of Ecological Restoration, they can also help. It could be made a priority project. That can also help. So there's various avenues to get the work started. Preliminary assessment, recon study. Then you can see how should we pursue this? What's the next step? So that's how we would do it. We've been in touch with quite a lot of different sources of funding. We're working on one right now in Berlin with 3 different sources of funding. So that's what we can help facilitate.
Okay. We have a particular culvert replacement project that the planning process, the planning portion of it has been funded through DER, but now we're looking to move forward with actual implementation construction.
Yeah, there's the culvert replacement, the culvert replacement grant program.
Yeah, with DER, that's where the funding is to do the planning portion. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can talk about that and see if we have any other thoughts on how to help put that together. The other thing you mentioned for the rain garden, we'd like to get it finished. It's this year. So it would be something that would be completed this year. Short time frame.
So you're looking to do planting in the next month or 2?
Oh, well, no, it would take longer. I think the planting might not be till the fall. Okay. But to identify the site, design it, cost it out, figure out how we're going to go about it. It would be a summer project. I would see it as a summer project.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, it takes time to get people on board with everything. It always takes longer than you think. So we know that although the project itself could look pretty simple, nothing's ever simple. And definitely part of it is to get everybody on board.
Exactly. All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about those 2 things? I think that's it for this. We can move on to the next slide if oh, right. So as we mentioned, we were a partner with the town of Stowe. It was actually Stowe was the lead on the project, and we were assisting. And so we would love to have another municipality to work with that way. Working with Jesse Stedman was fantastic. So if anybody would be interested in being a partner on this, we would love to hear from you. And also we were thinking maybe we need an identity, like a logo. So if anybody has a cool idea for logos, let us know. Heather, did you want to say anything about the next meetings or?
Well, in the chat, I put the website for the Talbot Mills. And if you just scroll to the bottom of the page, you can actually click on the story map. It's a fantastic story map. So it's a good reference to take a look at the Talbot Mills Dam. So the next meeting for us, and for any of your ideas that you might have for a site or any of the dams that you might identify, or any ideas for the logo, feel free to email me. I put my email in the chat. I'll also be sending out the next meeting, which would be May 11th from 2 to 2 or 3:30 actually. And does anybody else have anything else that they wanted to bring up for our meeting? Any thoughts, any ideas, any questions for us?
Okay, and if we're really clever about this, we can actually end early, which is always wonderful. And thank you everybody for participating. And we've got some great ideas here, and we will follow up with you and also keep you informed about all the events that are coming up, various tools, grant programs, all the rest. You may have some of those coming into your email boxes already, but it's also great to share because you're in different roles in different organizations. So that will be, hopefully will be helpful. All right. So thank you all. And I hear spring is coming pretty soon, which is the season where invasives grow, floods happen. It gets all very exciting. I wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for hosting.
Have a good afternoon.